Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Today is the 16th of December, 2022. Brigadier General Matt Heiger broadcasting you live from the PA studios at the Center of the Aerospace Testing Universe with my trusted chief. So, Dee, happy holidays.
Happy
For those of you
holidays.
that are a practitioner of the religion Christianity, Merry Christmas. I'm thrilled to be here. I like the backdrop. I will tell you that in the month of December, it competes. Warm fires and Christmas trees compete for my favorite backdrop with airplanes. So I'll tolerate this one in December. Um, Chief, first time I've been here in a while. A lot of conflicts that I've had on Friday, but I think it's really appropriate that you and I are both here on this last Friday broadcast of the year 2022. Folks, as you know, we've held this time slot at 1300 Pacific time on every duty day Friday for going on two years, 2+ years actually. And because it's an every duty day Friday thing, this will be our last broadcast of 2022. So next Friday, the 23rd, is a family day. The Friday after that is an additional family day. And then we'll be back on the air on the first Friday of the new year in 2023. That is the 6th of January. And if I'm wrong, somebody's going to text in and tell me I'm wrong. But
6 Jan.
6 Jan, first Friday of 2023. But we will be in a new time slot. And so we're going to move this town hall from 1300 Pacific time to 1500 Pacific time. And part of the reason and the intent there is that allows us to go do things like broadcast live from promotion celebrations and broadcast live at award ceremonies and other events. And so it's a little bit less load on the PA team, but I think it's a lot more more apropos or deeper for those of you that can't physically be here to join in the activities that are going on here at Edwards at the Center of the Aerospace Testing Universe. So new time slot on 6 January 2023, and that's 1500 Pacific time. Now the first, so next Friday, the Friday after that, and at 1 o'clock on the 6th, we'll be broadcasting a quick reminder to let everybody know that tunes in this time slot that we've moved, and that'll be an important reminder there. But we'll be back up with you live, basically the same format starting the 6th of January, 2023. So, and we'll sign off with until then when we're done at the end of this hour. But one of the things that I wanted to do today was kind of look back at greatest hits of the year. And a couple other announcements. Chief, I've got a big stack right here from our awesome historian, Mr. James Tucker, JT Tucker. Huge shout out to him. A lot of people think historians and they think people that are focused on or live in the past. And I will tell you, JT is someone that I proudly call, and I think he would describe himself as an operational historian. He's capturing the history that we made today and yesterday so that in 20, 30, 40, or 75 years, which was a big event this year, people can look back and know what we had. And more importantly, for folks like Chief and I, we can say, hey, JT, can you go look in what we did a year ago or 2 years ago, or how many years have we done this? And he has a robust data set or access to a robust data set. That really helps us out. And that is available because we have a wing historian, not just at the wing level, but for subordinate units in the wing, and also for mission partner units here on Edwards Air Force Base and Air Force Plant 42 also. So JT, you're awesome. And I probably won't read the whole thing, but we do have a lot of stuff that you've compiled for us. So without further ado, let's get to the first one. So many of you know that the 2022 was the 75th anniversary of supersonic flight. That team that pulled off the Bell X-1, broke the sound barrier, crushed the sound barrier, was a team that was commanded by then Lieutenant Colonel Bob Cardenas. He retired as a brigadier general, and unfortunately we lost him earlier this year. That is literally a picture right there, folks. It gives me a little chill to think about all that, but that's a picture right there of our B-2, tail number 1078, doing the flyover at his memorial service down in the San Diego area on the 31st of March earlier this year. Fair skies and tailwinds, General Cardenas. All right. In April of this year, as many of you know, we have the KC-46 here. We also do tanker testing and tanker compatibility certifications with KC-30 and other coalition tankers with the entire fleet of receiver aircraft. And for the tankers that can receive gas themselves, we do tanker pairings also. Now, that's a tremendous capability that is literally done in the Western world only here by the team at the 418th Flight Test Squadron and the Global Reach Combined Test Force. By the way, folks, what a great picture, right? So I'm sure it was taken out of an F-16, but there's a picture of and E4B, which is the NAOC, National Airborne Operations Center. That's an operational unit. Those aircraft are typically based at Offutt, but as many of you know, there was a flood that took out some or of Offutt Air Force Base, and they, for the construction purposes, building back from that flood, they've had to distribute those aircraft around the nation. And Edwards had the capability to host the E4 here. It spent a lot of its time out of the weather in Hangar 1600. It spent a lot of time on its ramp, and it spent a lot of time flying its mission. And while it was here, we're like, hey, why don't we finish the certification or the tanker certification? And so that's what we did. And there's a picture of us certifying or gathering the data that would allow for the potential certification of E4B as a receiver off of KC-46 over the skies of the Mojave Desert. Beautiful. All right. Who's familiar with BAF or the BAF? It's the big building, building 1030. Actually got painted this year. I'm sure you saw that, Chief. And the numbers, I don't know how big those numbers are. How big do you think they are? They're probably like 10 feet tall. The numbers on the side of the building. I mean, they're huge numbers. They look just normal, but the building is tremendous. And so it got a new coat of paint on the outside, and the numbers now proudly displayed on the outside of the Benefield anechoic chamber. Lots of trivia and lots of history about the building itself. When you look at it, everybody, on what at the time in April 2022, that commander called it the West Base compound. We'll see if that sticks or not in honor of Colonel Orson. But he is very proud of advertising that. That building is as deep as it is tall. So as you drive in, think about how many stories up that is. And there are actual buildings with stories next to it. I want to say that IFAST is 4 stories. And when you're on the roof of IFAST, you're still looking up at the top of the Benefield anechoic chamber. So 5-6 stories-ish high, but it's as deep as it is tall. Just some amazing capabilities. Very few airplanes that can't fit inside there. One of them happens to be the 747, but almost everything else that flies in the Western world fits in there, and all of our military airplanes have been in there at one time or another for the testing that we can only do in the anechoic chamber. So go back to the chart for me. We don't always have customers in there that we can take pictures of and broadcast and where they are and who they are and what they did. But here's an example of a C-130J derivative, an AC 130J derivative in there doing countermeasures testing in the BAF. Chief, you probably see AC 130 and you think back to your
Hurlburt time,
your roots. Yeah, lots of ACs and lots of them around. So big guns out the pilot side of that airplane. All right, let's go to the next chart. All right, boy, what a fast year, pun intended, huh? It zipped by at hypersonic speed. And no, I'm not going to do a comedy event later, but an awesome picture of one of our glorious B-52 Stratofortresses above here. I assume that's departing, but it could be departing or landing, hard to tell. So many things that we could talk about on that picture, but for those of you that don't know, though the B-52 was just an amazing design, all done with slide rule, and that looks about right by a bunch of brilliant MIT engineers in the 1950s. We're still using it today. We're going to use it for more decades into the future. Like, I could talk for a long time just about the landing gear, right? There's 4 main landing gear. There's not a nose gear. There's 2 trucks of the main landing gear there. For those of you that have never been around a B-52, you'll also notice, if you look really hard on this picture, you'll see there are landing gear on the wingtips that also retract. And that's because when this airplane is on the ramp, fully loaded with weapons and fuel, the wingtips droop and those wheels rest. Sometimes both, but usually one or the other as the airplane rests on the ground. And as it's running down the runway, the wings start to lift off as they flex a little bit, and then the thing lifts off. But it doesn't rotate, it just kind of elevates or levitates off the runway. It's an amazing thing to watch happen. It's even more interesting to be in the cockpit for that. But in this particular takeoff, there's a hypersonic weapon hanging off that left weapon station. I wish I could go into all the glorious details of the hypersonic development that we've done, but because this is publicly facing, and because there may be some people that are competing with us on the other end of this, I'm gonna save what's publicly releasable. But one of the things that is publicly releasable is a B-52 from the 412 Test Wing shot the Air Force's first air-launched hypersonic all-up round weapon last week. Took up out of here, flew out over the West Coast, pickled that baby off, and it went exceedingly well. And I'll leave it at that. So kudos to the whole team that made that one happen. The program office is the vendor, the smart folks that built around the team, the test execution team, and everything and everybody else involved in that. But that was not the only hypersonic success this year. There were many, many more. And to say we are moving forward into the future at hypersonic speed is really an understatement. And I believe that acceleration pace is only gonna move faster in 2023. But what a great, awesome experience. All right, it's JT have for us in June. So Orange Flag. Orange Flag is one of the Test Flag Enterprise events. They're pseudo large force employment, but they're really focused on test, not employment events that are now 3. So there's Orange, hosted by the 412th, but flown all over the nation. Emerald, hosted by the 96th Test Wing at Eglin, but again flown around the nation and in some cases around the world. And then on top of that, we also have, hosted by the 53rd Wing, either out of Nellis or at Eglin, depending on what their objectives are, Black Flag. So Orange Flag, Emerald Flag, Black Flag are 3 test-focused events with dozens of aircraft participating, testing hundreds, if not thousands, of future capabilities. Some of them that are operational and we want to tweak them or maybe look at a tactic. Others of them are experimental. And so if you go back to the chart, please, that's the whole spectrum of technology readiness often is participating in an Orange Flag and multi-domains. So one of the really cool things that happened in June and September is we had TPS student projects participate in Orange Flag for a first time. And there were many, many other firsts that happened in the Test Flag Enterprise throughout the year. But that is another way that we are pushing forward the development and the rate of development of our nation's capabilities. So good on us. All right, next. I'll let you chat on Sticky Miss Sticky Face.
So in June, that's when we launched the results for our innovation mascot. Can we bring up the chart again? That's Sticky McStickface right there. Our innovation team has done a tremendous amount of work this year, and that's just one highlight of many, to include their spark tanks and all the other supporting events that kind of make our innovation team what they are. Yeah, that's him. That's what the people voted for, and so that's who won.
A true democracy in action right there. First of all, I never would have thought of it, and I bet Chief wouldn't have thought of it either. But that's what rose up from the grassroots effort. We had to retire Eddie, and oh, by the way, we needed a refresh anyway. And so Eddie, the Innovation Dragon, has a certain fond place in all our hearts. But it was time to rev the mascot and retire Eddie. Put him in maybe we'll call him Mascot Emeritus. How's that? And the new dude on point is Sticky McStickface. So you'll see him around. For trivia, folks, he's on our Test Wing Leadership Board. So the Sticky McStickface has a prominent space in our. He's kind of our 6th member of the top 5 there in the leadership team. But yeah, I think that's cool. And we're talking a lot about the mascot, but boy, the energy and the continuation of the energy and the just, if you will, normalization of radical transformation is really took hold and continued to accelerate in 2022. You know, one of the things that we talked about in late 2021 was normalizing an innovation culture. We're a place where people break barriers all the time, where it's not unusual at all for us to ask questions like, why do we do that and how do we do that? And making that just a part of our everyone's and everybody's and everyday's DNA is what we do here.
Yes, sir. I harp on it a lot at newcomers. I talk about it at the First Sherman Airmen Center, but I really want people to understand that that is a program that is of great benefit to this wing that is already founded on innovation. And so as airmen have ideas and things that they can see in their vision, they need to be sharing that and getting that to the right levels so that we can act on those things.
Yeah, and I guess we'll continue down the tangent a little bit because it's core to how we are going to continue to outpace and out-accelerate our adversaries. The innovation isn't just technology. Innovation is, as I define it, it's something that you see in one place and you go, wait a minute, that could be useful here. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's a tool. Maybe that's an app. Maybe that's actual hardcore technology, or maybe it's something super simple.
Right.
And so a great example that we bragged on yesterday with Lieutenant General Schaefer so my predecessor, two removed, he's the deputy commander of Air Force Materiel Command. He was here yesterday talking to our helping agencies folks. And we brought up the mood metrics. So many of you, hopefully all of you, but many of you, I'm sure, when you open up a browser, typically on a Wednesday, but not always on a Wednesday, a new tab opens up, boom, and it says how are you feeling today? And you got a slider button that you move back and forth, and that's about right for me. And you drop down for your status, active duty civilian or other, and then you drop down your unit. It collects anonymous information, and then it provides us feedback, and we have a large data set there. I thought that was really impressive, and I don't know. I think General Schiffer knew that we were doing that here, but evidently they're not doing that at Wright Pat, so he probably hasn't operationalized it or use it every day. But we can. And then he relayed to us a story that at some, I won't name the name, but at some high tech companies, when you log into your machine, we get the DoD banner pop up that says, "Hey, acknowledge this XYZ." Click. Their version is their mood metrics version, so they have to respond, and I thought that was a great chat. So, Chief, I think that's a great thing and a great example to talk about innovation. All right, let's. There we go. June. I actually missed this deployment here, but the tornado. If you're in the UK, you have to say it. Those in the central United States would just say tornado. But we support a lot of foreign partner testing here, often allied countries, but certainly partner countries. And it's not uncommon for us to see unique and different flags or patches or aircraft. And so we had a tornado here for some compatibility testing in June of 2022. Other nations' aircraft that we have and we operate here, I've already talked about the KC-30, often on an Australian aircraft here. Italy also has a tanker that we test here. Japan has a coalition tanker that we test here. And then there are other combat aircraft, not the least of which are all of the foreign military sales F-16 testing that we've done on the ramp here. And we have a few of those jets. And then as we look forward into 2023, we will start to get some additional partner and foreign military sales F-35s testing that we do. So lots to be done here. That's pretty cool.
Yes, sir.
Sorry I missed that. Tornadoes are pretty awesome. Oh my gosh, what a day. I think Chief was in the audience with me for that day, but it was a reactivation of the 445th Test Squadron and the installation of that squadron's, I'll say, new squadron's first commander. And I don't know, Chief, I don't know if you want to riff on this one at all, but I think it's pretty awesome, and I'll talk about what the squadron does.
That was a pretty significant event. It was pretty emotional. There's a lot of history in there. I was impressed by all the aspects of that day. So yeah,
pretty neat.
It was thoroughly enjoyed.
We did that in the Flight Test Historical Foundation Museum, Flight Test Museum. If you haven't been in that museum, folks, it's the one with the two-seat A-10 parked up front. That if you drive in and out the West Gate to main base, you see it every day, twice. Inside the museum itself, ignoring all of the hardware that's in there, just the art that's in that museum is impressive. Like that mural in the background there behind Colonel Orson and Lieutenant Colonel Peterson was done by Mike Michaud. And I can just stare at each one of those airplanes for probably tens of minutes each, for hours total. And just what a great facility, what a great museum. It is not an Air Force museum. It's important for me to highlight that to folks. It is run and operated. Now, we do have some manpower that we contribute to it, but it's a very limited amount of manpower. But all the rest of the funding is done through the Flight Test Historical Foundation. And then for those of you that also have been in and out the West Gate in the last 45 days, I think, you'll note that they've gone vertical with the construction of what we're calling the new museum. That construction will not be able to complete until they receive some more donations. And again, they're not receiving any cash from the or other funds. There's a picture of that beautiful Mike Michaud. Gosh, I'm drawing a blank. When you paint on a wall, a mural on the wall there in the Flight Test Museum. But the new museum out at the West Gate, as I'm sure those of you that have seen it. First of all, it had an American flag flying on it, lit at night. It was beautiful. They need your participation. They need your help. If you are willing or interested in participating either with your labor or your cash or both, Flight Test Historical Foundation and Air Force Flight Test Historical Foundation is the place to go to do that. And if you don't know where that is, text in your name, number, and we can get it to you. But Now to the mission of the 445th Test Squadron. It's a range operations squadron, except their range is all ones and zeros. So that is the squadron that will do all kinds of stuff, including hosting test events in the Joint Simulation Environment, or JSE. JSE is literally a new paradigm that allows us to test the actual mission system software in a validated and verified environment that is a battle space, but it's all in a digital electronic range. It's not a simulation, it's a digital representation of reality. Boy, I struggle with analogies here, but it's like Matrix on steroids. We'll have humans in cockpits interacting with the environment in JSE. We'll have other models and simulations running there, and we are going to be able to do testing as fast as we can generate those missions once JSE is up and running. That building that the 445th Test Squadron is going to operate out of is also next to the BAF out on West Base, or the West End, or whatever we're going to call it. I did a walkthrough yesterday with General Schaefer, and it's really looking really good. I mean, we're about ready to start putting furniture in and installing computers in that. I'm excited. That company and that team, that partner, has done an exceptional job of construction. They're on time and under budget. Given this environment, that's amazing. So kudos to them and the Army Corps of Engineers teammates that have helped them stay on track and on time. But it's a neat place. 445th JSC synonymous. We also have a facility that is a couple months ahead of it. That's at Nellis. So we have an AFMC presence on Nellis Air Force Base in the form of the 445th Test Squadron. Good stuff. All right. Prime. And this theme's July, but there's also a big hook in October. For those of you that haven't heard me talk about STEM or talk about our nation's imperative, I hearken back in history to the space race and what it did for our nation and our national competition. I don't have the omnipresence or the bully pulpit that JFK did at the time, but one of the benefits that we all have today of the space race and what JFK initiated when he said we're going to the moon by the end of the decade was it turbocharged interest, attention, and enrollment for kids, I'll say as early as, third, fourth, fifth grade. I'm going to stay in this tough math class. I'm going to take Carter classes in high school. I'm going to go to an engineering school. I'm going to get a tough STEM degree. And maybe if I don't want to go to college, I'm going to enter technology places. Like I'm going to go make chips in a factory there. I have a good friend that I went to high school with that is doing that. People that work on a flight line or work IT infrastructure and support, like the other half, you're the better D, but in your household, those kinds of folks were inspired and motivated, and we started to gain combustion in the 1960s and 70s, and we all benefit from that today. These types of events in the 2020s are designed to insert or inspire or expose folks so that they hopefully realize how cool being on Team STEM is. And this is just one example that we had throughout the year. And hats off and kudos to anyone and everyone that helps with STEM, not the least of which are our Starbase teammates that directly target and expose and inspire third graders from all around the region. And also to our 412 Test Wing STEM director, Miss Alita Van Hoy, who I'm sure had no small hand in both this picture and this event in July. All right. You got to like flybys. So Major League Baseball All-Star Game, 19 July. Those are some neat pictures, folks. You don't realize how rare it is that you get to see an F-16, F-22, and F-35 in the same camera lens at the same time. The 419th was also involved. They had a C-12 there, kind of say doing command and control and other items like that. And that was over at Dodger Stadium in July of 2022. We have also done flybys this year at Rams or Chargers, I can't remember which game, and other events around the region. Not the least of which were the flybys that just happened earlier this month, which I think we're going to talk about when we get to December. All right, next. My favorite big target airplane, says the F-16 pilot. In all seriousness, no, however, 50th anniversary of the first flight of the F-15, which happened where? Oh yeah, Edwards Air Force Base. The important thing about the F-15 is that it was really we took a lot of what we learned from the Century series, from the XB-70, from the SR-71, and all those were incredibly capable airplanes. But instead of trying to just modify or update the ones that existed in the 60s, we decided to do clean sheet design. That resulted in the F-15, and shortly thereafter the F-14 also, which the Navy flew for a while. And this was a tremendous leap in capability, and it really drove the Russians to do some interesting things strategically. In addition to it having the Eagle drivers in the world, will remind me that it is still unmatched in air-to-air combat in the world, and that is very true. So I'm glad they're on my team. I really would not enjoy fighting against Eagles in open conflict, and I'm glad that those tacticians, those maintainers, those designers, those engineers, and those test professionals that have pushed it along for 50 years are keeping it moving. And for those of you that don't know, we are now again buying brand new F-15s, starting in 2021 and 2022 in the form of the F-15EX. More Air Force Test Center folks in action. Next chart. She's got a lot of stuff around her, but this is Vista. This is the X-62 Alpha. I don't know if it was rebranded in August of 2022, but there was a lot to talk about for Vista this year. Yes, it looks like an F-16, but boy, folks, it is long since departed from any other F-16-like airplane on the planet, so much so that the Air Force redesignated her the X-62 Alpha this year. Among the many things that are unique to her, the pilot sits in the back seat, and the passenger or the engineer or the test subject sits in the front seat, which is probably the world's best window cockpit, window office. That is her in her new paint, which is 2018 timeframe, was when we laid the new paint on the aircraft while it was in major maintenance. The upgrades that happened ending this year allow us to put artificial intelligence agents in the airplane and execute them, update them, and rev them flight test point by flight test point. They're partnering with DARPA, they're partnering with other organizations, and beyond that, I'll let those organizations release how they're doing and what they're doing. But to say it's exciting is a huge understatement. It also serves as a cornerstone of the test professional school curriculum, and is the one ride in the syllabus where engineers going through that school sit in the front seat and fly front seat F-16. It's an amazing airplane. All right, thanks for the additional picture there. All right. So we then get new airplanes in the F-35 fleet here starting in August. There's a tech refresh known as TR3, which is massive internal guts upgrades to the F-35 fleet, which are starting to roll out of the factory line in Fort Worth. And we got our first tail here in August. We're modifying, in addition to that tail, we're modifying another tail to go through robust testing of that new baseline hardware. And that is really the cornerstone and backbone of F-35 going into the future. The existing F-35s, infinitely capable airplanes, but we're never resting on our laurels. And I think this is just one more example of the continued acceleration and iteration of our razor sharp tip of the spear capability that is the F-35. All right, next. All right, F-22 and F-35, Project Fox, or it's the fighter optimization experiment. And this we have, I'll say, normalized or gotten everybody used to the fact that, gosh, we can do a lot of stuff with software in the jet or in those jets, as long as we don't have to run it through an airworthiness certification every time. So proving that there's a sufficient boundary between what we can do on, for example, a tablet that you could take with you in the cockpit to help you tactically, that there's a sufficient blocker or non-interface to the flight critical or mission systems critical things in the F-35 and the F-22 were huge advances that happened in 21 and 22. We started to do ride-along things from app developers that are helping us extend or enhance our lethality in those two 5th-gen platforms. And that project and the two pilots that made it happen, Ross Leclerc and Sig Black, they were nominated for the Air Force Spark Tank, and they made it to the finalists for that. So great stuff. Another tie-in to innovation that happens here at Edwards. One more. You were there, Chief. I don't want to critique my own performance because I didn't say everything as I had hoped, but what'd you think? 14 October 2022 for the ceremony.
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, so that was the 75th anniversary of the boom, and we renamed the high altitude supersonic corridor during that ceremony in honor of the Bell X-1 team. The speakers that were also there.
Yes, when you
recorded,
were on the stage for the STEM Expo.
Yep.
Yes, sir. That went well.
It went fantastic.
Sorry, I blanked out.
No, it's okay.
I was like, what is that? What does that picture have to do with me being somewhere? Like I couldn't.
Yeah.
But yes, sir, that was amazing. That
was
was a
amazing.
good opportunity, and I had a blast that day with all the folks that were able to come in and witness that, as well as the expo and all the other things that were in that part of the hangar. So
yeah, it was truly amazing. It was. We had pre-recorded messages from, but specific messages to that event from Secretary Kendall, General Brown. We had the NASA Principal Assistant Deputy Administrator, I think is his title, there in person talking about the partnership back then, but also now that NASA and the Air Force have and continue to have. And just such a great event. That was day one of our open house air show and STEM Expo. 23,000 estimated 23,000 people under the age of 18 showed up for that expo and building 1,600 on those 3 days. And that was the kickoff event for that, where we renamed that high altitude supersonic corridor in honor of the team that was the Bell X-1.
It was a great day.
It was a great day. Here we go. Here's here's the footage. And I bet if you went and looked at it, you'd get to see the messages from the SecAF and from CSAF were right on target. And I tell you, Mr. Cabana was also just fantastic as well. So there you see Secretary Kendall, and after that we'll have General Brown, and then on stage myself and Mr. Cabana. He is a super humble dude. For those of you that want to be just have your socks knocked off, go pull his resume. Multi-time shuttle astronaut, retired Marine colonel. He's the senior ranking civilian in NASA, and just an amazing American. So it was a great day, great ceremony, and a kickoff of a great 3 days. Speaking of a great 3 days, Chief, what are you going to take away from the 14th, 15th, 16th that we haven't already talked about on the ceremony?
I was so, like, one of the highlights for me was the part where the Thunderbirds had the newbies raise their right hands to sign into the Air Force. I didn't know we were doing that until the day of.
I'm also getting chills thinking about that. Yeah, I think that was Saturday, but it was Saturday or Sunday after their show. Boy, they looked really young.
They were young, and I was able to like high five them on the way out. That was a huge highlight.
It was. For those of you that first of all, for those of you that missed the open house, and a lot of people refer to it as air show. Yes, there was an air show, practice day Friday, performance Saturday, Sunday. But it wasn't just an air show. It was an open house, literally Saturday, Sunday, gates open to the public. Estimates initially ranged in the 100,000+. More precise counts are a little bit lower than that. But bottom line is it was tens of thousands of members of the general public, literally traveling from all over the world that were there. I personally talked to a couple that traveled to Southern California from Belgium just to attend the air show.
Nice.
And open house.
So shout out to Pyro. That was also the day that I got a chance to
blow
some stuff up.
You got to make things go boom.
My Pyro friends.
Yeah. New call sign there somewhere for D Ward-Swanigan. But I'll let you guys text in what that's going to be. But so it was an open house. The open house included an air show, but it also included a STEM event and a bunch of static displays. So it was a lot more than just airplanes flying overhead, which was great. But the rest of that event was just amazing and truly historic. It says there 10+ years. It was 13 years since the previous air show, which happened in 2009. Folks, right now we are in discussion on when the next one's going to be. And it will not just be an air show. It will continue to be an air show and STEM Expo and other things like that. This is inside of Building 1600 on that day. And the exhibitors and the participants and the mission partners that were there that day were just phenomenal, right? I could have spent all 3 days in the STEM Expo building just being the 50-something-year-old kid again. But this is a robot dog that a lot of the kids got to experience. Oh,
Look at
I
that.
love it. Yeah. So full disclosure, I have not seen the movie yet. I'm not sure when I'll see it, if I'll see it. But Top Gun Maverick.
I've not seen it.
Good. All right, Chief and I didn't coordinate on that.
You can count on me though to not have seen something, right?
Okay, so go back to the picture. So this is a Lockheed Martin Skunk Works design that they were put on contract by the production house that made Top Gun Maverick movie. This is the actual mock-up aircraft that was in the movie that they hauled up here and presented to the public for the first time.
Dark Star?
Yep, Dark Star, and at our open house. Full disclosure, the thing isn't even close to flying. It's a mock-up that looks very real. As it showed up on Thursday, and they were putting it into place, and then again Friday morning, I mentioned to the folks that are around there that it was a good-looking airplane. It had one significant flaw on it, and they corrected that flaw Friday night by putting some nice black duct tape over the word Navy on the back of the tail. And then after that, I thought it was pretty sharp, and I let it stay on the ramp for the rest of the day. But pretty neat, Dark Star, and great pictures. Glad it was there, and it was parked next to an SR-71, which is certainly, you can see the family resemblance there. All right, so much at the air show. We can go on and on about the air show. Just a few days later, we did something that we have been trying to do probably also since the 1950s, and that is remove and demolish and replace the capability, but grow the capability of what we call Building 1400. For those of you that haven't worked here or aren't a geek here, that is the home of the Test Engineering Group. It has been on the demolition list for a very long time, decades actually. We broke ground on the Milcon construction, which will be right next to the Wing Headquarters building. And boy, I watch that go every day out my office. Chief, you see it too when you're in the front office suite. But they are making tremendous progress. They're doing scrape and fill, getting the stuff ready to go to put the horizontal construction in. And I expect it will be vertical here in the not too distant future. I believe it's about a 700-day project, so a little over 2-ish years. And that means we should be occupancy in that new flight test engineering lab complex. Mid $40 million worth of military construction in early 2024.
As you can see there, I had a literal hand in turning the dirt for that project.
Yes,
so
she did.
just make sure that gets in make sure JT knows that needs to go in the books.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A great event and a great day. Too long in the making. All right, and then up the hill, we have another breaking ground in November on the Fortress Space Lab complex. I don't have a whole lot of details on that, but boy, you put this together with the Flight Test Engineering Lab complex, with the Milcon for JSE, plus the completed fire station, the projects that we have in place for potentially, it's through Design Charrette, the new test pilot school or test professional school building and compound, and new comm squadron upgrades to the security forces. And I can start running the list. Horizontal construction projects that we are putting in early design phases for the runways. And at South Base, there's a lot of investment and a lot of activity, and that is well justified given how much contribution we have to our nation's future defense. So great stuff. Look at that, Santa. We got him to SoCal to say hi to some folks.
Is that Will Ferrell with him?
Will Ferrell, the pilot.
elf.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So yeah, I'm glad he made it in safe, folks. I'm positive that the pilot didn't hurt him or G-lock him on the way in or the way out. But I've often wondered why he doesn't wear a G-suit when I see the pictures and the videos of cartoons of Santa Sleigh, because that's some serious maneuverability. If you wonder what I'm thinking when I watch Polar Express on Christmas Eve as he blasts off out of the North Pole there, that's one of the things I'm thinking. So
Aww.
yeah, here he is. How do we know what day of the week it was? Because there's orange shirts, so that's our brand, and it's a Friday. Yep. Sting Peterson, Jessica Peterson there, our OG tech director, and lots of cool kids happy to see the man.
Nice.
Awesome. Okay. I already talked about that one, but how awesome is that? And folks, that was not the first, and it certainly won't be the last hypersonic weapon to get tested and developed here at Edwards off of our Buffs and other aircraft. So super proud to be a part of that. Developmental testing, tech maturation is not easy, but it is certainly worthwhile, and it's important that we continue to push that frontier, primarily for deterrence, but if deterrence fails, to make sure that we can whack some pretty interesting targets deep, deep, deep into contested territory. What else you got for December?
Is that it? That's it. That's our last one.
I'm going to talk to one more. If you've missed it and you're in this Takata 2 family, then please check your pulse and check and get to an emergency room fast. But it was Friday the 2nd of December. Chief and I were at the event, and Chief, I thought that was, first of all, it was nice to just be a member of the crowd. For it doesn't happen for the two of us very often, but it was great to have, as everybody referred to it, general seating, which I found more than a pun, right? It was great. But that was the B-21 rollout event. You can get it through Takata 2 Live in a rebroadcast manner. It's a little over an hour long. The first 20 minutes are Northrop Grumman ads or build up, but then you get speeches from the president, CEO, and chairman of the board of Northrop Grumman. And then we have introduction from the vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, a Navy admiral. Here we go. Here's the doors opening. Chief and I were in the audience, a few rows back. It was pretty neat. It was a little chilly, but no wind, thank goodness. Mm-hmm. And then that's literally the moment they had just pulled the curtain off the aircraft.
That's how you end the year.
Yeah, it was an amazing event, but it wasn't just the event that was the thing that hit me. It was getting to that event, and also what that event foreshadows in the near future for the capabilities that are developed here in the Aerospace Valley. So yeah, and then the third speaker was Secretary of Defense, so Secretary Austin, and I thought it was amazing to me, but very appropriate that a CEO of a defense contractor, a 4-star Navy admiral, and our Secretary of Defense, who's a retired Army general, 4-star general, they all specifically called out airmen. Mm-hmm. And they talked about the airmen that are going to be in the cockpit of that aircraft fighting in the future. They talked about the airmen that have helped build and develop it, and they specifically highlighted airmen that helped build and deliver that. And so there's a lot of detail that I won't bore you with today, but for those of you that don't know, we have 412 Test Wing, specifically 412 Maintenance Group, active duty airmen that are on the line right now helping build and develop that airplane, that specific tail, and they're also working on the production line. It's a small number of folks, but their integration and their inclusion both brings forward to Northrop Grumman the expertise that we deliver to them and that will help operability and maintainability. But in addition to that, we learn about those airplanes so that we're not learning as we get it. So it's a way to accelerate development. And often what we focus on is the flying of the airplane, and we kind of leave behind the how do we figure out how to make it keep its fly rate up or maintain it. And our airmen that are maintainers by trade and by profession with decades of experience among them are learning and developing that, and they will flow with the airplane when it transitions to here on its maiden voyage. So that's a super huge shout out to those people. I will not name the names, but the people that have done that by name, but a gigantic shout out to all of us and our partnership with all of our mission partners that are here in the Aerospace Valley. So it was neat, and that was a great way to close out the year. And we can go on and on and on and on in those things. Let me foot stomp that a lot of what you saw there was we have 4 combat fronts that we fight here at Edwards. The one that we just foot stomped a lot of was our developing future capability, the future fight, the development fight, the capability maturation fight. Another combat front that we fight in every day is we fight in cyber. What you have seen Chief and I do, and our PA team help us with in this broadcast, is indicative of the fight that we are in, and we know we're in that fight with our adversaries in the cyber domain. And you help in that every day, every time you're online, on a device, home or at work, 24/7, 365. The third combat front we're in is the deployment fight, so the deploy today to fight tonight. We successfully got downrange and returned dozens of our airmen, and they successfully executed their missions on behalf of combatant commanders this year. So kudos to those, a lot of security forces, but there are other folks that deploy from our medical teams and other very small specialties across the installation. Kudos to everybody that gets them there and gets them back safely, and to those airmen getting ready, prepared, executing honorably, and returning to their friends, families, and to us. And then the last one that we fight in as a combat front is against the pandemic. And I'm proud to say that we continue to be a green dot in a sea of red. The case rate in early 2022 was 10 to 20 times higher than what it is right now. We don't want to go back there, and I'm confident that we're not going to end up going back there. And that's a testament to what we are doing and how we are operationalizing the mitigations against COVID. We've pivoted from where we were early in the pandemic, pre-vaccine, to where we were in the mid-pandemic, early vaccine, to now focusing on risk to mission. And a part of the risk to mission is risk to people, but it's not just risk to people, it's risk to mission as well. And so I think we've done a solid job of moving steadily there, and we get recognized for our efforts of keeping the mission moving, but protecting people and mission along the way. And I'm confident that will continue through the holiday season and early into 2023. So those are the 4 combat fronts. Good foot stomp there, and we'll move off there now. All right, I'm gonna let Chief handle this one here. Yes. Question, and then I'm gonna look through the other material that somebody handed me as I walked in. Hey, sir, can you talk about this? So, Chief, if you want to handle that question from the crowd.
Okay, it says, I know there's plans at the squadron and unit level to take care of our airmen, our dorm airmen, during the holidays. Does the wing have any plans? And so, as a advisor and a frequent flyer for the First Sergeant Council meetings, as well as the Chiefs Group Committee, those are private organizations that I know are on a regular frequency when it comes to dorm airmen, and that is especially the case during the holidays. There are also other private orgs that contribute to that effort. So I see cookie drives and all sorts of other things going on across all of the private orgs that are specifically keying in on making sure that the dorm airmen are taken care of, not forgotten about during the holiday season. But I sense that this question is asking if the wing is specifically going to buy gifts for the airmen in the dorms. And I don't know that whoever put this question in here is tracking that. You cannot spend wing funds on gifts. So that's why the wing relies on the private organizations and those other mechanisms that raise funds that are not the money that we use for the mission to do things like that. And so I can assure you that there have been things going on already. I've seen the first sergeants talking about their efforts and the Chiefs group as well. I have not heard lately from some of the other private organizations specific to the dorms, but there's tons of things going on, and those are that's just one example, or they are just some examples of the ways that the wing can take care of airmen without breaking any rules when it comes to money. So
that's a great transition, Chief. I'll let you announce that one here very shortly. Let's pivot to what we can and what we cannot spend funds on. Boy, I like orange. I mean, I really like orange, but orange jumpsuits and stripes, I'm not in for that, right? So I don't want to have to wear one of those because orange is not my permanent color. And that's a way of saying that, taxpayer dollars, your dollars, my dollars that we contribute to the Treasury can only be spent on certain things in certain ways, and that's limited by Congress. And so we can't spend those funds in certain ways. However, what we can do is we can devote and provide our attention to things that support either, like Chief mentioned, private orgs, but also anybody else that wants to do that. And we contribute not just with funds, but we also contribute with our time and our attention and the donation of our time and attention too. If you participate in a private org, thank you. If you are interested in participating or contributing more back to this community, there's a list of private orgs available through the FSS. Chief can get that to you if you want it. You can text in your contact information and we'll get it to you also. But they would love your participation. There's also a huge need for people that, for parents that have children enrolled on base school in the Muroc Joint Unified School District on base. If you are interested and you're a parent of a child, whether you're active duty or not, if you're a parent of a child that's in the school there, and you are interested in helping make that school all that it can be, please talk to our school liaison officer, Candace Lang. If you can't get a hold of Candace, let either Chief or I know that you're interested in participating. And along those lines, thank you to all the parents that participated in the 4th iteration of our school survey that we launched over Halloween this year. We now are into the 1,000+ responses over 4 different survey dates, and that data gives us, those surveys give us data, and the data concludes with information that we can then work with our Muroc Joint Unified partners, so that it isn't just my opinion or Chief's opinion or the superintendent's opinion. It's here's the data that we've collected anonymously from the folks that reside on base or that have a child enrolled on base. So thank you for that participation, and you're volunteering for that as well. So it's volunteering for 5 minutes to take a survey, or volunteering 5 days a year to do something with one of the private orgs. This place doesn't happen without a lot of volunteer airmen and their families.
If the person who sent that question in has any ideas on what else we can do to take care of airmen, I know that the boss and anybody else in the top 5 and a lot of other wing leadership across all the commanders and directors, we partake in things like serving food at the DFAC for Thanksgiving and Christmas and some of the other holidays. If there are other things that may require money or may not require money, I have a Dropbox on the Command Chief page, or the Command Chief link off of the Edwards app, that you can drop ideas and feedback into, and I encourage the FTAC airmen to go in there and send me feedback all the time, and so anybody's welcome to put something in there. If it's something that we can pull off, then we will absolutely do anything we can, as I'm a big proponent of quality of life, as most of you know. So
fantastic. If you can't find that or hit it, 707-412-8922, and we can do that. Chief also mentioned the app, the Edwards app. It is not somebody else's app. It's an app that I'll say, control and mature here locally. I don't believe in the 8-letter F word, and therefore we're not going to push anybody to some other social media site or website or app. So yeah, and you can get to it from any device. And so if you have questions on where or what it is, great. But here's an example.
Can you go back to the Commander's Corner link and click it? And so there you'll see the Command Chief chevron at the top. That's where my quality of life ideas Dropbox is. So
hit us up there, communicate with us there. I think it's a great capability, and I've referred to it as one app to rule them all. I don't particularly care if it rules them all, but that is the place where you will officially see myself, Chief, and Colonel Caspers. All right, can you guys in the production studio call up the FSS slides? We'll get through some, I don't want to say paid advertisement here, but FSS is a huge supporter of the base. By the way, awesome job on the tree lighting ceremony and the Winterfest last Friday the 9th. A huge thank you to everyone for being agile. We had the thing scheduled. In fact, we had the wing holiday reception scheduled for more than a year on Friday the 2nd of December. And then poof, B-21 says, nope, that's our day. And Major Moyer and I quickly decided to pivot Winterfest by 1 week. They were able to pivot everything there. So kudos to the vendors and the participants, and she was able to pull off a miracle, literally a Christmas miracle, and get snow on short notice there on Friday the 9th. And then we made other things happen. So testament to our agility, and that was certainly those are 2 awesome Fridays, the rollout on the 2nd and then the Winterfest on the 9th. So FSS, they're awesome. Go get some bowling, and between throwing your 16-pounder down the lane, have breakfast with Santa on December 17th, 9 to 11 a.m. If you're looking for an indoor activity when it's a little bit brisk, plenty to do inside high desert lanes as well. All right, next. I can see it, 12 Days of Club, but the December 21st is it. You see the bottom there. Major Moyer is going to pull a winning ticket for members lunch, and then there's 1st through the 21st. There's 12 days of club operations. There's a lot of stuff that you can participate in. So you get a ticket dropped, and then when you show up on the 21st, they pull a ticket for a winner. Even if it is in December, and even if you don't get a ticket, the club's a great place to go, great place to hang out. Katie and the team there do an amazing job. They continue to be my favorite key and essential personnel during the early phase of the pandemic, and it just feels very home to be with them, and I certainly enjoy that place. Next chart. All right, New Year's bowling, bell bottoms not included, right? With that,
Disco ball.
but yeah, disco bowling. I've been in there when it's lit up that way. It's pretty darn cool. Black lights and all. 7 p.m. to just after midnight on December 31st, turn January 1st, 2023, again at the bowling alley. Next. And there you go, golf and bowling. 2 hours of bowling, shoe rental and food, and 9 holes of golf and food. So I can't read the details on that, but it is available. We'll hang these.
That's free because of the Unite residual.
Correct. That's correct. So we have leftover Unite funds, and that's why we are able to offer that at no charge to participants. So good on FSS and Major Moyer and her team for making all that happen. She's done a bang-up job in her year as the commander there. So great. Another great leader at Takata 2 and her team. All right. We got just a couple more things. Chief, I'm going to remind everyone that Southgate is closed consecutively from its normal closure time on 23:59, so just before midnight on the 22nd. So that'll be next Thursday night. If you can get out that gate before midnight, great. After that, you'll need to use Westgate or Northgate outbound or inbound until 5 a.m. on the 3rd of January, which is a Tuesday. We're doing that for a variety of reasons, but well coordinated, well discussed. I think it's the right answer given all the balances that we have to do. It allows our defenders and some of our first responders to have legitimate holiday breaks. They went through some massive lifts this year, not the least of which was the entire squadron supported the B-21 rollout and kept that event safe and without incident. And trust me when I tell you, not going to go into details, but trust me when I tell you they had some activity and their partners with the OSI were very proud to have them and glad to have them at that event. And then all of you know the big lift they did with their augmentees during the open house and air show. So that is one of the reasons why we're closing that gate for the defenders. I recognize fully that there will be some folks that have slightly longer drives because of that. I thank you for that contribution, and I again thank you for your service and your participation and your understanding that this is a team effort, and sometimes part of the team has to give a little more than other parts of the team as we move forward throughout the year. But reminder, base wide, we're closing Southgate from just before midnight, Thursday the 22nd of December, and opening it back up at 5:0500 local on the 3rd of January 2023. If there's an emergency or if we need to get through that gate for mission reasons, the fire department, security forces can always take care of that. But normal traffic in and out, don't even bother trying between those dates. They will not be available to you, nor me. So appreciate that for everyone. All right, Chief, you get to make the announcement.
Okay.
It's in your hand right there.
Okay.
And then I'll let you give them a little background on why we're so proud to deliver that, even though it's not enough. So
Yes, sir.
over to you.
So a couple of days ago, the DoD released the BAH basic allowance for housing increase for 2023. It'll take effect on 1 January, and it's basically a huge average of about 12% increase. So that's a big deal. As a lot of you all know, we've been working to make some changes with BAH increases in and around the area and have fallen short. When they did the temporary increase, we were not part of that. And so to see this come down is a big win for our folks around this area. So there's information flowing probably all over each social media outlet, but I know for a fact that you can get more details on what I have in my hand at defense.gov. So
yeah, they're hanging. So if you go to the BAH query, type in 93523, which is the best zip code in the Air Force, 93524 if you don't live here but work here, you can see what the BAH rate changes for 2024 are going to be. Like substantial changes and substantial increases that unfortunately are late to need. But the great news is that Chief and I, inside two different channels, but both channels, were pretty assertive and pretty aggressive in the, what are you doing? Why did that not happen? And we got listened to and we got heard. We got an out of cycle BAH look, and that resulted in this significant number here. In addition to that, we are also engaged in a push for remote and isolated CONUS installations in many fronts. One of those fronts is to work with the Department of the Air Force and kind of push or nudge or encourage the Department of Defense to get out of boots on ground surveys and make it a little bit more automated. Now that's it's 80 yards down the field to go, but the ball is on the field and it is in play. We have that ball and we're going to make progress towards the goal line, even if it's just a couple yards per snap. I don't find it acceptable that we have to wait in upwards of 3 years for housing market changes to be reflected in BAH, especially now that we have very robust publicly available data sets, plural, that the BAH folks could use. And they have told us, in fact, when they did our in-brief and out-brief, hey, here's what we're getting off all our databases, here's what we found locally, and look, they match. I'm like, well, great, if they match, let's use the database. And let's use the database to update things more frequently than every 2 to 3 years. Mm-hmm. So I think the material is there. We both have bully pulpits and some access, and we'll let you know how we make progress on that one component of Mrs. Brown's 5 and Thrive, and that is housing. Also on the housing front, apartments made progress. If that lands, we'll have between 200 and 300 additional units on the base, which is upwards of a 40% increase in the number of residences at 93523. I have got to deliver that before the full-time space test course students show up for their year-long courses starting in calendar year 2026. And that is allowing me to drive to decision through OSD that. And it is my fondest hope, Chief, that you and I get to go to one more groundbreaking
Yes, sir.
In the housing area on apartments sometime next summer. So with those notes and I'll say optimistic look forwards, I'll close out here with Commander's thoughts, Commander's messages on safety. First thing I want to say for my safety message is safety doesn't just apply over holiday weekends. It doesn't just apply during the 101 critical days of summer. Safety, being safe, preserving resources, the most important resource is you, is something that we do 24/7, 365 without exception. Unfortunately, Chief and I are all too familiar with what happens when someone isn't safe or we have an event, and we have a lot of experience there. I don't want to have any more than what is naturally going to happen anyway. And the way that we continue to do that is you use risk management principles. You apply basic common sense consistently. I can give example after example after example where someone has done that and has made the difference, and what the saves that we have had. But my ask of you is, if you're thinking about doing something that has potentially flying debris, well, the safety glasses are less of a detour than going to the emergency room when something pops you in the eye. When you're doing ladder work, like I did, putting up your outdoor lights, make sure you have somebody spotting you. Make sure that you're using the safe height on the ladder, not in the wind, those kinds of things. So there's a lot of things that are applicable, not just over the holidays. And that is my safety message. It's a good reminder and a good opportunity for us to think about it, but it isn't just applicable between now and the New Year's. There are a lot of additional opportunities and risks that you may be exposed to over the holidays. So bad weather, bad roads, an invitation to have, you can have one more, that I know you are all above and won't do. And if you do fall prey to that, fine. Just don't get behind the wheel of the vehicle, and those kinds of good decisions that I know you make all the time, and I know you help your wingmen make and back them up if they need it. So that's my big message to everyone. You'll see that we got a great message from General Richardson in our email. I'll probably put something out a little bit closer to New Year's in a look back and how grateful I am for things. But that's my big push, and that's my, if you will, commander safety message for the closeout of the year. As a recap, it was a great year. It's hard for me to believe that the next time we're going to be broadcasting you, it's going to have flipped to 2023. That is tracking to be a momentous year in the Ward and Higer households. More details on that as the year progresses. But we are proud to have been with you and worked for you for this last calendar year. We wish you all the best throughout the holidays. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year. If we don't get to see you until the New Year, great. If we get to see you between now and then, expect us to both look you in the eye. Thank you for what you do and what you contribute, and to tell you how proud we are to be on your team here at the center of the aerospace testing universe. See you next year, everybody.